The Pittsburgh Steelers have been in the midst of yet another one of their trademark quarterback whirlwinds, a phenomenon that has become increasingly common in recent years and has only intensified as the franchise attempts to transition fully out of the Ben Roethlisberger era. After enjoying nearly 2 decades of stability at the position, something most NFL franchises can only dream of sustaining, the team has found itself in a continuous cycle of uncertainty, speculation, and weekly evaluation as it tries to identify the best path forward under center. The shift from Roethlisberger's long and decorated tenure to a post-Big Ben world has been anything but smooth, and the current saga surrounding Aaron Rodgers only reinforces how drastically different this chapter of Steelers football has become. Rodgers, now the most recent high-profile quarterback in the Steelers system since Roethlisberger's retirement, arrived in Pittsburgh carrying immense expectations and a belief that he could stabilize a position that has been in flux. His experience, championship pedigree, and rare talent generated hope that he could elevate a roster that has often flirted with competitiveness but struggled to find consistency. However, those aspirations hit a significant roadblock when Rodgers suffered a fracture in his non-throwing hand during the first half of the Steelers' victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. Although he initially attempted to play through the injury, showcasing the competitiveness and toughness that have defined his Hall of Fame career, he was ultimately forced to sit out the following week's disappointing loss to the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. Now, as the Steelers prepare for a pivotal matchup against the Buffalo Bills, one of the AFC's most complete teams, questions loom large regarding whether Rodgers will be available. Ray Fittipaldo of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, a long-respected voice covering the team, joined 93.7 The Fan for one of his regular weekly appearances. During the segment, he addressed the uncertainty surrounding Rodgers' health and availability in the coming week. His insights offered a glimpse into both the internal concerns of the organization and the broader anxieties surrounding the Steelers' season. Mike Tomlin said it was a prudent decision, which leads me to believe there were some medical concerns about that wrist stabilizing. With another week, maybe it's better, but I don't know how much even a hairline fracture on a bone like the wrist is going to mean in a week, Fittipaldo stated. We'll have to see what happens this week, but at this point, I don't know, to be honest. I'm probably 50-50 between him playing or sitting again. Fittipaldo's outlook, particularly the suggestion of a 50-50 status, seemed to veer toward the more pessimistic side of the spectrum regarding Rodgers' availability. During the lead-up to the game against Chicago, reports indicated that Rodgers was pushing hard behind the scenes to play, attempting to convince coaches and medical personnel that he could manage the injury. The fact that he was close to being active then, despite clearly not being physically ready, makes it somewhat counterintuitive to believe that his chances of playing would actually decrease 1 week later. Yet the team's caution, combined with legitimate concerns about aggravating the fracture, has left the situation in a delicate balance. The implications of Rodgers missing additional time are substantial. The Steelers have learned the hard way that Mason Rudolph, while a respected veteran presence and occasionally serviceable backup, may not be the long-term or even short-term solution they had hoped he might be. His performance against Chicago reignited doubts about his ceiling and reliability, leading to growing frustration among fans and members of the media. Some even began clamoring for third-string rookie quarterback Will Howard to receive an opportunity, despite his lack of NFL experience and the enormous pressure such a move would place on a 6th-round pick still adjusting to the speed and complexity of the professional game. The calls for Howard grew louder as the offense stagnated against the Bears, a game in which the Steelers' passing attack appeared hesitant, directionless, and unable to sustain meaningful drives. While inserting Howard might satisfy a segment of the fanbase eager to see something new, it is far from an ideal scenario for an organization still very much in the thick of the playoff race. The Steelers understand that relying on Rodgers is the clearest path to offensive stability, explosive potential, and competitive viability. His health, and by extension, his return, is therefore tantamount to the team's success as the season approaches its most critical stretch. The timing of Rodgers' injury could not be worse. With the season more than halfway complete, the Steelers are entering a defining period that will determine not only whether they can secure a playoff spot but also whether they can finally break their alarming postseason drought. Pittsburgh has not won a playoff game since the 2016 season, a statistic that has become increasingly burdensome and frequently referenced by both national analysts and the local fan base. For a franchise with Pittsburgh's pedigree, 6 Super Bowl championships, decades of sustained excellence, and a culture built on expectations of annual contention, the long absence from postseason victories is becoming intolerably long. The upcoming schedule does the Steelers no favors. Not only must they face a formidable Bills team led by Josh Allen, but they also have 2 remaining matchups against the Baltimore Ravens, the current powerhouse of the AFC North. Baltimore's roster, bolstered by MVP-caliber quarterback Lamar Jackson and one of the league's most dynamic defenses, presents one of the toughest challenges any NFL team can encounter. To compete with, let alone defeat, the Ravens, the Steelers will need to play complete, disciplined, and explosive football in all 3 phases of the game. That becomes significantly more difficult without Rodgers behind center. Rodgers' presence elevates every aspect of the offense. His pre-snap command, ability to diagnose defenses, improvisational skill, and deep ball accuracy open up facets of the playbook that are simply not available with Rudolph or Howard at quarterback. The offensive line plays more confidently when he is on the field. The receivers benefit from his precision and veteran savvy. Even the running game improves when defenses must respect the threat of Rodgers unleashing a strike at any moment. Without him, the Steelers become a far more predictable team, easier to defend and far more reliant on limited short yardage execution. Internally, the organization understands this reality. Tomlin, while renowned for his unwavering confidence and outward poise, is fully aware of the stakes ahead. Offensive coordinator Arthur Smith has faced heavy criticism for his play calling, particularly in games where Rodgers was limited or absent. A prolonged stretch without Rodgers could place even more pressure on Smith, whose scheme hinges on having a quarterback capable of executing nuanced timing concepts and layered reads. The coaching staff knows that the margin for error is shrinking as the season pushes toward its final weeks. The Steelers' defense, long considered the backbone of the team, has carried an enormous burden throughout the year. Led by T.J. Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and a resurgent group of young defenders, the unit has kept Pittsburgh competitive in games where the offense faltered. However, asking the defense to shoulder the load week after week is not a sustainable formula. Against elite offenses like Buffalo and Baltimore, even the most dominant defenses eventually break down if not supported by a competent and balanced defensive attack. This is why Rodgers' injury situation, even though it involves his non-throwing hand, is so critically important. A hand fracture, even a hairline one, affects everything from ball handling to snap exchanges to mobility under pressure. While Rodgers has played through injuries before, the Steelers are placing a premium on ensuring that the injury does not worsen, especially given his age and the importance of the upcoming stretch of games. A setback could jeopardize not only the next few weeks but potentially the remainder of the season. Beyond the field, the storyline carries broader implications for the Steelers' organizational direction. Every decision made over the next month will reflect not just short-term goals but also long-term planning. If Rodgers cannot stay healthy, the Steelers may face pressing questions about their quarterback future heading into the offseason, particularly with an increasingly competitive AFC landscape. Teams like the Texans, Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens, and even the Colts have young, dynamic quarterbacks capable of competing at the highest level for years to come. Pittsburgh cannot afford to fall behind. Still, hope remains, and it hinges heavily on Rodgers' recovery timeline. His competitive nature, combined with modern medical treatment and aggressive rehabilitation protocols, leaves open the very real possibility that he returns sooner rather than later. If he can suit up against the Bills, even at less than 100%, the psychological boost alone could galvanize the entire roster. The Steelers have historically thrived in underdog scenarios, and having their leader back under center might spark a resurgence at exactly the right time. The reality, though, is that everything depends on how Rodgers' hand responds to treatment throughout the week. The team will continue evaluating him in practice, monitoring swelling, mobility, pain tolerance, and overall functionality. Tomlin has repeatedly emphasized that the decision will be made collaboratively between medical personnel, coaches, and Rodgers himself. The Steelers are unwilling to risk the long-term consequences of rushing him back prematurely, but they also understand just how vital he is to their postseason aspirations. As Pittsburgh enters one of the most consequential stretches of its season, the franchise finds itself at a crossroads. The path with Rodgers offers hope, direction, and a legitimate chance at contention. The path without him leads into murky territory where the team must lean on unproven options and hope for the best. Whether Rodgers plays this week may ultimately shape not only the outcome of the Bills game but the trajectory of the entire remainder of the season. For now, all eyes remain on his recovery, and on whether the Steelers can weather one more storm in a quarterback saga that seems to grow more dramatic with every passing week. Let us know in the comments if you think Aaron Rodgers will be able to recover in time to face Bills and the Ravens. Thanks for watching and see you soon.